All right, well, this is Jason from Jason the Mooney Guy with the first episode of the Pilot's Lounge. And for our first episode, I've got a pilot to interview.
You can trust me, I'm a pilot.
I've flown with you, I don't know. But we've got a little bit of liquid courage
Yep.
and ready to have some fun.
Absolutely, man.
So, this is Torres, one of the best pilots I know,
Well, I made it this far, so, right?
which is why I don't have many friends.
Yeah.
No, but so tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you become a pilot? Like, where are you from?
Man, the story's kind of wild because, sometimes you just gotta, either just happens, like you want to do this since you're a little kid, or maybe it's a career change, like the dude I was flying with yesterday. He tells me, no, I used to sell Mercedes-Benz for God knows how many years, 17 years or whatever, and he decided to be a pilot, so now he's a pilot. So that was cool, but anyways, my story goes, according to my mother, she said that when I was 3 years old, I came up to her, tugged on her shirt, and went, Mom, don't worry about it, because when I grow up, I'm going to be an airline pilot, and I'm going to fly you to Puerto Rico anytime you want for free. And she says that she still remembers the pajamas I had on, when I told her that. And sure as hell, always been just addicted to, like dogs with squirrels, me with airplanes. If I hear it flying, I'm looking. I want to see what it is. I can't just be like, oh, I gotta know what airplane it is. So yeah, that's how this weird career, I guess, started. I guess it started right there since I was 3 years old. So,
How long have you actually been flying? I've known you this long, and I don't even know.
I know, right?
I actually.
I started in '98.
Wow.
1998. I was 23 years old, which is kind of late for, people sometimes starting to fly. But this is the opportunity came. I was in school at the Universidad Interamericana down in Puerto Rico, doing aviation management, and just watching the airplanes come in and landing. And I'm like, I don't want to be in this classroom. I want to be out there. So a great opportunity came up. Some school from Lakeland, here in Lakeland, Florida, came recruiting. I want to make some money, so came recruiting, and I just said, I'm going. I gotta do this. This is what I really want to do. So next thing you know, I'm in Lakeland.
Damn. So where'd you wind up first working?
Actually, for the flight school.
CFI.
CFI, baby. Former CFI I had. Unfortunately, I let him expire, but I had my CFI, my II, and my MEI. And the reason it just got all the way to a point that it was either go to captain school for a CRJ 200 back at the Northwest Airlink, Pinnacle Airlines, or go down to Florida and get my ratings, active again, my instructor license is active. And one thing and another, it just didn't happen, so I just went to captain school, and then they expired. And now I'm sad because I really put a lot of hard work to get my CFI ratings, but...
So you can't teach me anymore?
Nope. I can only make suggestions. So you might want to put the gear down.
Please pull up. Please pull up.
Oh, God. Slow down. You have to tell me to slow down.
You have to tell that story about you flying the Mooney. The Mooney.
Yeah.
But
the actual Mooney from the Mooney Guy.
That's right.
Yeah, which was pretty cool. Actually, the first airplane I ever flew, I was probably, 8 years old, maybe 9, was a Mooney out of Brownsfield Airport in California. And this dude that my parents knew, he had that one, and he told me he had a twin. I never saw the twin. He said it was a maintenance, so we had to put all this stuff in this Mooney. We were packed. Looked like a taco stand, everything up here, and chairs, and I don't know. He had a bunch of stuff, but it's the first time that I actually got behind the controls of an airplane, and it was a Mooney. So when I went back and got into yours, it was like either a full circle or just so exciting to be back in this airplane. I don't know. It was a cool experience. But I do have to tell you, I wasn't I was scared. I haven't flown a little airplane in so long. I can't believe that I used to do it as a living before. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember we actually got in the plane. You're like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous.
You know, dude.
So that made you feel better. Said so am I.
You know, hearing again, clear prop. Yeah, when you hear clear prop again, you're like, okay, I'm in a little airplane. Watch out.
And when that whole thing shakes for that first time when it's not quite started, and you're just like, I'm really doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I guess we're going. I guess we are going.
I remember the
was
first
cool.
time I went flying, because there's long story. The guy that I went to business with, he was a Mooney pilot, and he convinced me to go, start to get in aviation, and I was terrified of flying. I mean, absolutely terrified, which is great when you're now the pilot.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I went down to like the local
What made that guy get that airplane? I mean, get into flying. This guy that took you flying.
at the school, or my buddy
Your buddy.
he said like a friend of his back in literally the 1960s got a wild idea to just buy an airplane, and he was like,
Just like, I'm going to go get a motorcycle or...
well, here's what's funny. Now, I know you got to adjust it for inflation, but you know what he paid for his Cessna 150?
I almost don't want to even know.
$4,200.
What?
$4,200. He said he owned it for I think he said he owned it 4 or 5 years. I don't remember the exact, and he sold it for $4,800.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
somebody got, it was like a two people got a good deal on that thing. Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's awesome.
So, I mean, but anyway, he got an idea, and he bought the 150, and he trained to learn it, and he fell in love with it. And then he heard about Moonies, so he got a Mooney, he got a C model, and then he got an E model, and now he's got a K model. And
I think the Moonies are like what the Cirrus SR-22s are these days, right? The Moonies back in the day, I mean, it's a radical design when you have the whole tail as the trim. As the trim surface, So,
but the funny thing is, honestly, if Cirrus would actually make retractable gear besides their jet, the Vision jet, do you know how much faster?
oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
the fact that they fly that fast and they're fixed gear, I'm like, well, am I the only person thinking, come on, guys, come on, make some.
Well,
make some
a lot
retractable
of
gear.
people that I think that buy these airplanes, they go from your 152 for your basic, your 172 for your instrument, and then they're like, I want something faster. So they go from that to this rocket ship, and now things are happening really fast. So why put the extra stress of the gear when you're coming in fast? You're like, and what is that horn? Bing, 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 bing. You know what I mean?
Did you see the video? There was two guys. It was in Europe, and they were. It was a retractable gear. They were coming into land, and the gear warning just starts going bing, just nonstop, and they're just chatting as if it's like. But guys, you just not notice this massive horn just screaming in your ear, and they just took it all the way down and just.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
start going scared when it goes ding, 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 ding. Yeah. I've seen on videos go around. That's why they hit the props. They go around. It's like, Jesus Christ, just throw it in the grass or something. But hey, you make a decision. You stick with it, right?
I mean, I guess they stuck with it. We're going to prop strike and belly this plane.
Jesus.
But once you prop strike, that's it.
That's it, dude.
No, what's funny is when I decided to take my first lesson, and I went, and the instructor, I swear he looked like he was 105 years old.
That's the guy you want.
Oh, yeah, it was good and bad, but I remember it was crazy hot that year. It was 104 degrees. We got in the plane, and he's just pouring sweat. And I'm literally thinking the whole time, please don't die before we get back. Please don't die before we get back. Because, he's just draining sweat. And we get on the runway, and he's letting me, this is my discovery flight. He's letting me, handle the controls or whatever. He's like, okay, now push in that throttle. And I've got the throttle, and I'm just barely going. He said, she ain't a virgin. It ain't her first time. Push that thing in. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, I would love to say that.
He was one of those guys, like, he wasn't dirty all the time, but when he did, like, it was just, like,
Yeah,
right
it
on
just
it.
happened.
And, yeah, we were flying, and I was still just, I mean, you could not have pried my fingers from that yoke. I mean, I was just terrified. And I asked him, I was trying to, like, calm myself down because I was nervous. And I said, well, do you enjoy flying? I mean, do you really like it? He said, man, let me tell you something. You need to understand this. Flying is most fun you can have with your clothes on.
Okay. I wish I had an instructor. I would be laughing my ass off all the time.
Well, that was, and whenever we were flying, it would always incorporate it. Like, because I mean, I grew up in Birmingham, so, well, Puerto Rico, you've got mountain ranges and everything. So, like, because we're at the base of the Appalachian Mountains. So, like, when you're flying, you've always got to change altitudes and that. If there's like a hill, he's like, all right, you see that hill? Looks like a booby. Now we're going to fly over that. All the time. Like, and he just acted like that was just, totally
Well,
par
see,
for
you're
the
mentioning
course.
you had a reference, like a ground reference, and that's something that in Puerto Rico, obviously, we have it. If you're in San Juan, you look to the south, there's a mountain range, so you know that's south, right? If you look north, there's only water, so that's north, no problem. But when I started flying out of Lakeland, which is Central Florida, it's a pancake, I could not figure out how to get. I cannot figure out my bearings, even though we did say, just tell the guy on the control tower that we're going VFR to the north. I'm like, all right, we're going VFR to the north, but I'm so much stuff going on in this little cockpit. I'm like, and it's turning and the oil pressures and the checklist and all this stuff. So, and we take off. He goes, I'll make a right turn, just go that way. Okay, we go out there and we go circle around and he shows me, all right, this is a good area to practice because if your engine fails, you put it right next to the cows down there and you can use this and that. All right, let's go back to the airport. Where's the airport? And I'm just looking like, I'm like, I have no clue. I have no clue. This is the first couple of hours. I don't know what a VOR, it just looked cool, it said nav. So, oh, that's cool, nav. But I didn't know how to use none of that stuff. The first couple hours, I could not find my way back. He's like, if we went VFR to the north, where do you think the airport is? I go, south. He's like, how about start turning south, and then we'll continue. I'm like, but what about the airspace? I don't know where it starts, this and that. He says, don't worry. If we get too close, I'll make the call. But try to find the airport. Oh, here we go, south. Clueless, dude. He's like, all right, I got control. I'm like, you have it. And he contacts and whatever, we go in. So I use this as reference, this and that. So I started learning, but it took me a while to get my bearings because I had no clue. I mean, everything looked the same. That was nuts. That took me a little while to get used to.
What, because I'll tell you my story, but what was the one time where nothing happened, but you realized like you were one step away from being in like a world of just like complete confusion? Mine happened on my first cross country because it was just becoming to be a thing, like GPS. Mm-hmm. But what's the one thing where you're like,
you're right. It's cross country. Mm-hmm. Those initial cross countries that you're solo cross country, and you're on your own. Now you're looking. Well, these guys have iPads and GPS with the iPad, and there's no. If you get lost with one of those things, Jesus Christ, right? But we used to, handwritten flight plans, your sectional chart.
oh my God.
You plotted your course. You hope the winds are correct, and you did all your wind correction stuff, and you just start flying, and you go, okay, then baseball field. Oh, you know what I mean? But I think it was my very first cross country. I planned it from Lakeland to Venice.
Wow, Italy, that's a long way.
On a 152
Yeah, I was about to
with
say.
one tank of gas. So here I go. Check the weather in Venice. Weather's perfect over there. Weather in Lakeland's perfect. But I didn't know what I was in between, which was this layer of overcast layer. What I thought it was all the way to the airport, maybe on top of the airport. I don't know. So I take off and, I see the clouds and it keeps coming and I'm like, oh, it's getting thicker. To a point I'm like, there's no way I can point out stuff that's in my sectional. No, I can't see it. So I continue the track and I go, well, let me check the weather in Venice. I get listen to the weather. Oh, clear in a million, beautiful. But I can't see past that. I can't see the coastline or nothing. I'm like, nope. 180. Fly it back. And I went back. I never finished my first cross country. So that kind of sucked. But I think I made the right call because I didn't want to get there. You're timing it. But I didn't want to get time and then go look down there and it's this. You know what I mean? And you're like, uh-oh, how much gas did I burn? And at that level that, you're just barely learning, you're more afraid than what you know. It got scary, so I just decided to turn right back and get it done another day.
I was worried, like on my cross country, it was completely clear, but I had two things that were happening that I didn't expect. The first was no GPS in the plane, only one VOR that didn't work. No, it didn't work half the time.
Right.
The needle would just be swinging like this. You're like, okay, this is useless. And I had an iPad, and it had like basic GPS. I'm flying, and everything's covered in snow. Like it was freezing cold. I think when I took off, it was 17 degrees outside. When I was at altitude, like it was 4. But I'm flying from Birmingham to Huntsville. And this is a Piper Warrior. Cruise speed, this thing's going like 95 knots.
Yeah, of course.
Well, there's like a 40-knot headwind. And I realized I'm moving along the ground like 57 knots. And I start worrying, like, am I going to run out of fuel before I get there? Because I was just like, you look down, you realize I don't see the ground moving. Like, this is a helicopter at this point. But
you see public transportation moving faster than you, right?
Well, there was a guy, like, because you could see, I guess it was I-65, which is the big interstate runs there, and there's a dude just wailing on a motorcycle, and I can tell he's just like, this is terrible. But I looked over because even though it was freezing cold outside and the snow was everywhere, the sun was coming like right in, and it was shining on the iPad, and it was just like it had been heating it up this whole time. This is my only reference point.
It killed it?
No, it said, warning, iPad overheating, about to shut down. And I grabbed that thing and like shoved it under the co-pilot's chair, like trying to get some air to it. Thank God the thing didn't cut off.
Oh, Jesus.
And
but you got to fly with iPads, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
well, when I was a poor-ass flight instructor, and I had my students, and we're doing, they're doing their cross-country planning, all that stuff, old school the way everybody should learn first and then get on an iPad. My personal opinion. Just to make it easier for me, I ended up buying this this Garmin.
the TomTom.
No, it's kind of like that. It's a Garmin for when you're out in the woods, just walking around. You can put the coordinates. So I grabbed the AFD.
Yeah,
the ADF.
Man.
I grabbed the book and just look. All right, this navigate. These are the coordinates, and I would spend sometimes at night just plugging in coordinates for different navigates on this thing. So I had it all plugged out. I made it an aviation, a VFR aviation GPS. I'm like, where are we going? Ocala? Let's see, OCF. All right. You sure you're going the right way there, son?
Like you just know
Yeah,
without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Oh, great tool. I'm like, oh man, a little bit more money and I could get one with actual aviation stuff on it, with NHSI and all that stuff.
I'm curious. Like, okay, like now, working for like the major airlines and all that stuff. Obviously, like everything's done with GPS. But do y'all ever actually use VORs, any of the old school? Like, I'm assuming you have it all on there.
Yeah, we used to fly VOR approaches. Now we don't even do those.
So what approach do you fly? Just
ILSs and RNAVs. Everything's on GPS.
I'm going to show my ignorance here, but so why do they still not count an RNAV approach, which is GPS based approach,
as a precision approach?
To me, that's like the most precise you can be.
You got me on that one. If I talk, I'll be showing my ignorance, but there's, I don't know, there could be plenty of factors. Although now we can do non-precision approaches, which an RNAV, down to 250 feet, which is almost an ILS.
Yeah.
So ILS is 200 feet above the ground. So I think, I don't know, it could be,
I
there's
mean,
different factors because like GPS approaches can be affected by temperature.
true.
You know what I
True.
mean? So if you don't select the right approach, you might be lower than you want to or higher than you want to.
I guess
Yeah.
that's true.
And ILSs are just radio frequencies. It's like it's there. It's
You're
shooting it's shooting a radio signal, and you just capture it and go down on it.
What's the scariest thing you've ever
Of what?
okay, with the airlines, all that kind of stuff? I mean, what nothing happened or whatever, but just like that was scary. Or I mean, maybe there's not, but just like
Wind shear, bro.
oh,
Like real wind shear. Not when you're doing it in a simulator. It goes, hey, wind shear, and you go, okay. Wind shear toga, and you just hold it. You're like, oh, we're following it, blah, blah, and you get out of it.
which wind shear is like when wind just like pushes you way down or pushes you way up like all of a sudden.
Well, it's like a microburst could be a wind shear event. For example, when it comes down and the air hits you in the front, well, now you get an increase in performance, right? And then you go through where it's dumping, and you end up with a decrease in performance, tailwind and pushing you down. So I had one when I just started flying for the airline here, and it really scared me. That was the first. I mean, I was scared. It was my leg too,
Oh no.
and
Which means you're flying.
which means I'm flying.
Just for those who don't know all the
Right,
lingo.
right.
Yeah.
Anyways, coming into Fort Lauderdale, clear to the right, clear to the left, and this wall of water coming right. We're flying from the coast inbound, right? It's just coming, and the airspeed indicator, the tape, is just going down, up, down, up, down. And the guy in front of us, and I still remember, it's a U.S. Airways 737. He goes, U.S. Air 123, we're going around, wind shear. I'm like, oh crap. And I tell the captain, I'm like, dude, this guy just went around. He's like, you're doing good, continue. I'm like, no, that's going to be us in like 10 seconds. He's like, no, continue, because it's not showing anything yet, so just proceed on the approach. Okay, and this thing just going, and like this, wind shear, and everything, all the checkers and all the colors that come up. And you slam the thrust levers, and this thing pitched up, but it was doing 500 feet per minute down.
Oh my god.
And I just went like, uh-oh, I'm going to be in one of these shows. Shit.
You're going to be on the air disaster.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be in one of these shows over the...
And there he was, the
the
co-pilot, Luis Torres, pushes the toga.
And in like just a matter of seconds, this thing just started shooting up into the sky with like 25 degrees nose up, just barreling through it, shaking all over the place. We were going right through the middle of this crap. And when it popped out on the other side, nice and smooth again. I'm like, start configuring the aircraft. And we didn't have they weren't forecasting weather, so we didn't have extra fuel for that stuff. So now we're waiting for this stuff to go through. And they send, we're like, where are we going to go? Well, I guess West Palm or, Miami if we have to, because you could see those airports, but just wanted to get back home. They send us 1900. I don't know if you remember Gulfstream Airlines.
I do, actually.
Airlines? Yeah,
I do.
There you go. So that's the first guy in, right? After a couple of go-arounds and people holding. And we actually cut in front of the U.S. Airways because they had fuel. So they let us go in before them. But the 1900 came in, they landed, and we're like, we're going, right? So we go in, bam, we landed. And after I landed and got off the runway and gave the controls to the captain, that's when my legs started going. That's when I realized, I'm like, oh my God, all this crap that just happened. And we're on the ground thinking, I'm alive. This is awesome. I'm not going to be on the show. It's like, well, I was happy. That's probably been the scariest I've been on a big airplane.
You know, it's funny. I never thought about like how much, adrenaline really kicks in. But I had to like make essentially, an emergency landing at Ocala because my alternator quit functioning. Wound up it was a loose wire, but I was losing all electrical power. And luckily, it happened right by the Ocala airport.
It was a loose wire and a loose fuel pump and a loose.
It may have had some other issues.
There must have been a loose, a loose cannon flying.
There was a few conversations with the mechanic after that, like, but time for round 2.
Doctor?
What's that? Oh, absolutely.
Oh crap! Oh, that's right. They're nitros.
I know. By the way, we have the absolute best video editor in South Florida.
Nick,
in the world.
right? Nick, yeah. Nice to meet you, bro.
We'll have to get you in the shot. But I'll put a link to Nick's info in the description. But you need video editing, he's the guy to go to.
Sweet.
But
what do you use? Adobe Pro? No clue. I'm done with Apple iMovie.
this is just for like reference, so I know when like our time's up.
Yeah.
And when we have to like verify something, like don't guess it, Google it. I gotta find it.
Don't guess it, Google it. That's right.
Yeah. But no, but I was having all these problems, everything, and it just completely was freaking out. I was going through my emergency checklist, thanks to you, of course, and Lewis was
we can
telling
talk
me
about that later.
He's like, Jason, you need to do a better job with your checklist. Very next flight, I have an emergency and need a checklist.
And you had it.
And I had it because of you.
Salud.
Salud. Muchísimas gracias. But anyway, so I had to, I came in to land, I had to drop the gear, everything. I was losing all electrical power. The radios were even failing when I was landing. And I was just freaking out. Luckily, it happened where it did. But when I taxied, I probably had enough adrenaline. I think I could have carried that airplane over to the FBO. But then when I got out, it was like Bambi being born. My legs were just like complete twigs and everything. Oh my God.
Well, that's how I felt when after we pulled out of the runway that day. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus Christ, get me off of this thing,
Oh, I was terrible. I was just glad, at least of all places for me, it happened at Ocala. They had rental cars. It was a nice place you could stop. There were mechanics to figure out all the issues that I was having, but yeah.
Yeah, I had one like that when I was a flight instructor. This guy that wanted to fly the airplane, was a Piper Arrow. I can't even remember now the PA number after the PA slash on the other side. I think PA
28.
PA 28, correct.
Yeah, PA 28.
Because the 23 is the Aztec. Yes.
That's right. That's exactly
all right, cool. See, hey, it's somewhere back here, but it's still working.
You're not as bad of a pilot as they say you are.
And then we had an extra guy that he just wanted to come in for observation flight. I'm like, yeah, sure, get on the thing. And we're on an IFR flight plan. This guy already had all his rating stuff. He just burned in his money from the school. Just wanted to get some flight time. So me as a flight instructor, I'm like, hey, I want to get some flight time too. So we go and approaching Daytona, or maybe just on top of Daytona, all the lights start going, just dimming. I'm like, this is not good. And we start turning stuff off and turning it on again and dimming, and you can see the voltmeter just starting.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, dude, we are losing electrical. I think we lost our alternator. Holy crap! Well, turn everything off. Get your flashlights out. With the little red.
Oh yeah.
Little red. Just get your flashlights out so we can see in here. But we're just gonna leave one radio on, and declare an emergency and go land in Daytona. It was not an authorized airport for us from the school to land there. So
when you're having an emergency, every airport's authorized.
Exactly, right? And that's what I told him the next day. Even though at the end of all that ordeal, even though when the mechanic came over, it's like, yeah, the alternator was shot. We'll fix it. You guys fly it back. And if they tell you anything, I'll back you up that the alternator was bad. Well, okay, that's really cool. Appreciate it. Yeah, so finally got back to Lakeland, and I got fired.
Appreciate the backup there, guys.
I got fired because what was I doing? Taking students for for their own personal flying business, whatever, you know, what kind of a decision is that? And I'm like, dude, the guy still has money in the account and he wants to burn it. I'm being the flight instructor. What? No, you can't take the airplane. So now you destroyed our whole schedule. I'm like, it was going to be destroyed because you didn't have an alternator anyways on this
It
thing.
would have happened on the next flight regardless.
Exactly. Maybe with some less experienced pilot. Not that I was a super experienced pilot back then, because we had 500 hours, invincible, So yeah. The guy's like, turn in your wings. Like
Oh my God. Like, it's not like your Top Gun, like,
dude. And it sickens me because I wish I had those wings still. I'm never gonna find them. Maybe if I look on deep enough on eBay, but
yeah,
I'll never have my ACA wings, which was that was the name of the school, Airline Career Academy, back in Lakeland. So I did go to the chief pilot, and I told him, dude, what the hell? I got a kid now, and what am I? He's like, I can't do anything, dude. He's the director of operations, and I'm so sorry. I'm like, just tell me I did the right thing. Tell me I did the right thing landing in Daytona with these two guys. He's like, yeah, you did the right thing. I'm like, that's all I needed to hear. Let me pick up my stuff and I'll leave. And that was it. That was that story. Great.
I think I mean, obviously I had that emergency landing, but with me, but the weirdest one was I took one of my last training flights before my exam in an airplane in Birmingham. In the very next flight, that airplane, they were doing a night flight, and they had a alternator fail and an engine died. I mean, I don't know how you have both at the same time.
Jesus.
And of all things, and I don't know the details of it. I mean, I need to probably find out from the guy. They both survived. They walked away, but they landed on railroad tracks.
What?
And survived. I mean, I was like, but that was the only thing they could find that was clear. And I was like, because apparently they were over some woods and there was a railroad track, and they somehow they managed to land it.
At night.
At night.
I mean, railroad tracks are going to be open, I guess.
Well, I guess if you get the wheels, you can't veer off if you
you'll be on the tracks.
Right.
Wow.
It's going to be bumpy as hell.
Hey, man, sometimes it's just not your time.
Yeah.
That's what I can say. That was on the PA-28, that emergency, and as far as 121 flying, only had, knock on wood, don't want it to happen. I still got 15 years to go. Flying from, where was I going? Memphis to Baltimore. And halfway there, the ECAM, which is the displays on the cockpit, shows up. Flaps fail. I'm like, flaps failed? I mean, we've been flying for an hour and a half. What do you mean flaps fail? That's weird. All right, let's run the checklist. Blah 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 blah. Okay, I'm like, well, now we know we can't move them. So whenever we land, we're gonna come in hot.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the company's probably gonna send us to Fort Wayne, Indiana. They got a long runway there. So we start texting back and forth, and they're like, no, return to Memphis. I'm like, shit, I wasn't expecting this. Memphis? Well, sure as crap, we called in. Their traffic control turned us around, head back to Memphis. Told the next controller, hey, we're declaring emergency. We just, we're going to come in hot, no flaps. We told the passengers, hey, listen, don't worry. It's just the only difference from this approach or any other normal approach we could do on this is now we're going to come in. We're going to come in fast. And one thing to come back to that story is that when you take a decision, stick to it, because it's probably the best one. And this I learned from a former Pan Am Airlines captain, this old school guy that I remember when I made captain. He's like, oh, welcome to the club. That's a dude from Puerto Rico. Really cool old dude, super cool. He had his whiskey in his hand. It's like, hey, come here. There you go, captain.
As he was flying?
Yeah, right. He's like, hold my beer. Let me land. No, he was really cool. He's like, hey, welcome to the club, but now I can tell you one thing. If shit hits the fan and you made a decision, stick with it, because it's probably the best one. Discuss it with your first officer, but you probably should stick with that one because it's probably the best idea. So this is what happens. Coming in to Memphis again, 0 flaps. I picked the longest runway. And it's a 10 knot direct crosswind. I'm like, no, I want the longest runway. Then control tower says, well, it's blowing down the runway on runway 27, right? It's 270 at 10 knots, so, you can have 27. Yeah, but 27 is like 3,000 feet shorter or something like that. I don't know. I don't have the diagram. But it is shorter. And I said, it made me think. I'm like, and the voice of this old school captain kid was like, stick with your guns, man. And I'm like, no, it's okay. We'll stay on, 18th Center. We'll just stay on 18th Center. Send the trucks to the end of 18th Center. We'll be there. And nothing happened, thank God. Came in fast, parked it. Everybody's happy. Change airplane, head back to Baltimore.
Oh.
Yeah, that stuff didn't stop there.
It wasn't one of those, well, you had an issue.
Well, we had an issue, now we got to go to the hotel. Yeah.
No.
In Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your ass on the next plane. We're going.
Yeah. Well, everybody was happy that, I guess, and I don't know if it's by instinct or whatever, but the announcement that I made to the passengers, they were all happy because now they knew what was going on. Like, hey, thanks for keeping us informed, Captain, this and that. So I'm like, oh, look, well, I know how to do my job, And this is brand new captain. This is my first time being a captain, so you learn a lot. That you feel like a private pilot again. That first day they give you the keys, like, you see that jet? Yeah. You got a pulse? Yeah. You think you can fly it? Yeah. Go. And private pilot all over again.
I mean, to me, I don't know, when you've been a first officer for so long and then you jump and become you go straight to being a captain. It's like you walk in the same cockpit, fly the same airplane you've done 1,000 times, and now you feel just absolutely terrified.
It's big.
Because then,
you don't even let go of your seatbelt because you don't want to fall off the seat.
And the FO probably walks in, it's kind of like this. I'll never forget, I was flying to Costa Rica. I literally won a vacation to Costa Rica. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, white privilege.
No, nice. No, they, just hated for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I walk into a room and supposed to feel guilty for just being alive. You've caused all my problems. Mm-hmm. I was just getting a McDonald's. But no,
How do you win a vacation to Costa Rica?
Okay, so long story short, I used to own, before, I moved to South Florida, I was an accountant. And of all crazy things, I wound up getting into the gas station business. Mm-hmm. Well, our grocery supplier said, for so much money you purchase, you get a chance to, an entry to a chance to win a trip to Costa Rica with some gas station owners. And you want to talk about sticking out. I was literally I think they took 62 gas station owners, and I was the only white guy there. Oh yeah.
Oh, see, I told you white privilege.
It was just that when they had that photo, it was just everybody's look, wait, what?
Yeah.
But
don't worry, buddy. It's 2025.
Yeah.
We're all on the same page. We're all equal. Doesn't matter what color or where you come from.
No, I love it. But yeah, we get on I have to fly from Birmingham, which is where I'm from, to Miami. And I'm sitting there, and it's an Embraer, which is, mid-size jet. I guess that holds
It's a regional jet.
Yeah, it holds about 80 people?
Oh, well, then it was a...
Well, I'm guessing.
E-175.
No, it was an Embraer, I know for sure.
Like E-175. Engines on the wings?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there, and this girl, comes up, and she's wearing a pilot's uniform, and I swear she looked 14 years old. And I'm just like, no, there's no way.
Yeah. I had a jumpsuiter like that yesterday that showed up.
And I was just sitting there, and I'm just sitting there, and she's just kind of over there. For some reason, she didn't get on the airplane. I thought, well, maybe she's just a student, And so I just asked her. I said, "Excuse me, I was just curious. Are you our pilot today?" And she's like, "Oh yeah," because she's like, "Oh my God, have you even hit puberty?" It's And I was like, she's like, "Yeah, I'm your pilot." She's like, I'm your first officer, the captain. He's not here. And I was like, okay, well, good, the captain. I was like, well, if you don't mind me asking, if I'm not being rude, I was just like, how old are you? She's like, I'm 23.
Oh, see?
Like, oh.
She's already flying a commercial jet
Yeah.
line at 23. I started at 23.
But-
Jason says, see, I told you I was behind the
But
curve.
don't worry. I felt so much better when the captain showed up.
Oh, that's a terrible thing to say these
No,
days.
no. Because he was 27. I was like, oh my God.
It's funny because I was,
He was 27 years old.
yeah, I was a captain when I was 27, 28. And, you know, I just walk, my hat and all that stuff, you know. And I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, people trust me? Sweet, let's go. You know?
That was the thing. We hit the plane, and you know, that was the whole thing. Like, we're taxiing down. I'm like, I've got a 27 and a 23-year-old flying this airplane.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God. Like, so the whole time. But I have to admit, like, when we came into Miami, it was probably one of the most greased, perfect landings I've ever just.
See? We all get lucky
Yeah.
one of these days. But when you got to the airplane to go to Costa Rica, you saw the pilots?
Yeah.
Where they're all crusty and just
they were
pissed off and just
Two
like,
old crusty guys didn't want to be there.
Got to do a freaking San Jose turn today. Yep.
And it was funny because right after we landed, we went to Liberia, Costa Rica airport. And then right after we landed, about 2 hours later, they had a crash.
What?
Yeah. It was a DHL airplane.
No shit. You were there when that happened?
That happened 2 hours before. Like, I'd landed in that airport 2 hours earlier.
I remember when that airplane went
Yeah,
off the
and it, like,
runway. The landing gear just broke and
flat.
just went. No shit, you were there?
Yeah, I was there.
Dude, that's
I was
trippy.
in Costa Rica.
Wow. Small
like,
world. That's
I am
trippy.
buenos dias.
I was not expecting that. That's actually pretty
Yeah.
cool. I mean, not cool for the guys
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the airplane.
It was cool because nobody got injured. You know, it was like, I mean, the pilots, they got a
yeah.
hell of a story, I guess.
And then you just bent a 757. They'll never see the air
Yeah.
again. Poor thing.
And yeah. Then I was like, well, I hope they fix the runway before we have to
Oh,
leave.
wow, dude. Damn.
Yeah.
That's, well, I mean, talking about stuff like that, the crazy stuff that happens like that, I went to Lima. And the night that I left, that next morning, is when that emergency vehicle plowed it into the airplane that was taking off. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
I
That's
left the
right.
night before. And that happened the next day. Of course, not the same, but
Yeah.
the crew that brought me the airplane, which friends of mine and I said, hey, what's up? They spent another 4 days down there because they were single runway. They didn't have anywhere to go. You know, they don't have another runway. It's built, but it wasn't operating yet. So, yeah, dude, yeah. I don't know what I was talking about that, but yeah,
Just like-
it happened just as I left, basically, not as I was coming in.
I was curious, like, I've heard, especially in South America, just because of the terrain and everything, I think there's one in Honduras, which I think they fixed, and then Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador. That now the new airport for Quito, it's better, but I heard landing at that runway, at least in one direction, is just like insanely hard to do. I don't know if you've ever flown it.
No, never. I've never flown there. But that same old school dude, Pan Am captain from back in the day, he said when they used to fly in there,
Into Quito or Honduras?
Quito, they had to keep one of the pilots. Whoever was going to go pick up the paperwork, whoever was going to stay in the cockpit had to be on the oxygen mask, like the whole time.
Wow.
It's like, all right, dude, go get the paperwork, and just on the oxygen mask because you know it's so high altitude. And I thought that was super interesting. They said they had front brakes on the 727.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to stop there, with that freaking mountain on top of that, my freaking mountain. That's pretty nuts to be using that stuff like that.
That was so, I mean, when I was in Quito, it was so crazy because, like, it was one of the most terrified I've actually been because we were actually driving a car and we went to some, like, bar on the top of some, you know, building. And it was weird because, like, the clouds would literally pass by the building. So you'd have this great skyline view, and then 2 minutes later, your building's IFR.
Yeah.
You know, you can't see. It's just like a white, you know, glass. But we left, and we were driving back to the hotel, and the clouds are literally beneath you. So we drove down into the clouds.
That's cool.
But the thing is, we drove, and I mean, it's complete. It was just like being IFR. And I was in the back seat, and the guy's just driving, just completely 100% guessing. One of the boats is like, I guess we're on the road. And I'm thinking we're in Quito, it's coming down the mountain. I'm just like, we're just going to drive straight off the side of the mountain.
Like where I live, I couldn't see the top of the buildings. It was probably, 1,000 feet maybe?
But that's probably
And
the smoothest air.
Well, yeah, no, but it would have been perfect for like 1 approach, 2 approaches, 3 approaches, 4.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. How long you had that airplane?
I've had the Mooney for 2 years.
Okay.
Already put 250 hours on it, something like. I put a lot of hours on that aircraft.
Well, I did 2.
Yeah.
Right. Went for the $100 barbecue at Naples and then come back. That's what it's called.
Well, the funny thing is for those watching, like Lewis decides, we're gonna land. We're gonna land this Mooney, and you're a little used to A320.
Yeah.
So we're coming in to land at 120 knots. It seems like.
Yeah. Well, for you for sure. Yeah.
I remember
I'm like, give me a try. No, I'll get it down. I'll get it down. Let's see. Where's the flaps?
And I was just sitting there. I remember sitting as we're getting down, like, God, we're hauling ass.
I remember you saying, you saying like, hey, you might want to cross the fence at about 75 knots. And I remember the number you gave me. I'm like, yeah, okay, let me try. And we're still doing 90 something.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think we're at 97.
I'm like, I can't get any slower, dude. We're gonna die.
He said, we're gonna fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I remember because I said, okay, my control. I took over.
Yeah, but when I give you the control, like going so fast, I'm like, here we go.
I pulled the power and just flared, and it's just one of those. It's just like we're just gliding.
Yeah, we just kept going down the runway.
Gliding.
It kept going down, and I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna hit really hard. I'm like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah. But the funny thing, I think we actually turned off one turn before the end of the other side of the runway. Like we just bled all that runway off.
It's coming in quick. It was just. We got to do it again though. You got to take one of these days. It's like completely still. And then you can bring your cameras and watch me be an asshole there, trying to slow it down and probably giving up at the last minute. Go, oh no, you got it. I don't want to break your airplane.
What we need to do is let's do a day trip to the Bahamas. Bimini from Fort Lauderdale in the Mooney, by the numbers, is 18 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
That's an 18
Wow,
minute.
that's really fast. All right.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's only 50 miles.
Yeah, I mean, you're going 167 knots. I mean, honestly, by the time you're even up at altitude, you're already.
It's time to come down.
Yeah, you're focused on it. I think Nassau is like maybe an hour, and Freeport's 45 minutes. So, now that plane was the actual Mooney that got the STC for long-range tanks. The Monroy long-range tanks, that was Jose Monroy's aircraft.
What's the furthest you've gone on one leg?
Probably about 600 nautical miles, one go. Which it's not even half.
Yeah, for that, I mean,
that
with
actually,
the extended tanks.
The reason the extended tanks were made is he would fly to Puerto Rico.
From where?
So he lived in Fort Lauderdale because I took over the same hangar.
From Fort Lauderdale to San Juan, nonstop on that thing?
Nonstop.
Oh, Jesus.
So you probably didn't notice, and I'll make a post about
like
this.
6 hours?
Yeah. Well, probably maybe 5.
Yeah, we'll bring a cooler.
Yeah.
To put it on the side. It's like, this is my co-pilot. This is my co-pilot right here. It's a long ass flight, dude.
But no, because apparently, like
diapers on that shit.
I think his son went to college in Orlando, and so he would even fly from Orlando to San Juan or Fort Lauderdale to San Juan. But yeah, he could easily make that trip. Yeah. But that's a long way over water.
I mean, I do appreciate the fact that people that have businesses and are willing to not only run their business but say, okay, if I got to travel, it'd be a lot better if I do it on my airplane. And I mean, that's super cool. It's just going, all right, let me go. Like you go to Birmingham, and I'm in Birmingham, 2 hours?
Yeah.
In 2 hours, which could take you 12 hours to get there in a car.
Yeah, well, I say 2 hours. No, it's right at
like
3.
3?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's right
still.
about 3. So, but No, I mean, of course, it depends on the wind. Coming back, like one time I had a tailwind, and it was ridiculous. It was like 32 knot tailwind, and my true airspeed was like 165. I mean, I'm hauling ass like 200 knots. It's just like, excuse me, guys. Let me just,
Excuse me, coming through, sir.
No, I was actually curious. You said, talking about like you were just at the airport. Had you ever flown into the airport where like the accident happened? Where like the one in D.C.?
Yeah, we used to fly at when I was at the regional. We used to fly there. Actually, and the current airline I fly with, we used to fly there too, and then they canceled their slots, and we started flying out of Baltimore now. But yeah, and actually got to do that same approach, but during the daytime. Because you line up on runway, was it one? On runway one, and then it's a side step to runway 33. And this day I'm flying, it's not my leg, it's a co-pilot's leg. So he's all set, he's flying his ILS coming down, visual conditions, just beautiful day over there. And just like they did to this guy, oh, listen, we need to shoot this guy out of runway one, can you take 33? Same exact thing. And I just looked at him, and he looked at me like, oh crap, like, I'm like, I told him, it's nothing, dude. Just disconnect your autopilot and go that way and then go this way, And so he goes, okay. I'm like, yeah, we can take 3-3. Clear land 3-3. Go ahead. He disconnects. He goes, shh. He wasn't expecting it at all. He's just planned for that. And he went, shh, shh, nice landing, shh, and everything got off. And he's like, oh, wow, that was really cool. I'm like, see? You can still fly the airplane? Fantastic, dude. Great job. He did a great job. Yeah, he retired like 2 years ago, but he still calls me sometimes. Good guy. But it was, it's pretty exciting when you just planning one runway and out of nowhere, they'll tell you to go to the other one, and you just got to do it because you accepted the challenge, right? Challenge accepted. So he went and did it, but this was daytime. What happened to these guys at night? I mean,
Yeah.
especially where they hit, which is kind of in the middle of the river, on the threshold of the runway, and the other side of the river here, they kind of hit in the middle. These guys in the RJ, they're just looking at the runway at this point. They're 300 feet. They're looking at the runway. Plus, they're probably just finishing their bag to line up with the runway. So, if the helicopter's coming this way, there's no way they could see it. There's no way they could see him. In my personal opinion, there's no way they could see him. So, who was at fault? I guess we got to let the investigation continue and finish. But in my personal opinion, I think it was the guys in the helicopter.
I was actually reading into it, and it looked like it was just one of those things where it was like the helicopter doesn't have ADS-B out.
I heard something in the news about that.
Even the pilots, they can't see them. It's not like they can see traffic. So first of all, like you said, they're focused on the runway. They can't see traffic, and then they have the Black Hawk has a transponder, but it doesn't have TCAS, and it doesn't have ADS-B out. So it was just like the perfect storm of like disaster.
There's a couple of channels, that I follow. There's one in particular that I like that.
Aside from Jason the Mooney guy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And he was very specific talking about the helicopter routes and the altitudes you have to maintain. Apparently, this pilot was getting a check ride. The pilot was getting a check ride. They're more than likely wearing night vision goggles. So now you have no peripheral vision. And all it takes is to look down make sure all your instruments are doing the right thing, and then look up and there's an airplane. But they should have maintained right on the edge of the east side of that river at 200 feet. But right on the edge. They hit in the middle of the river.
That's true.
That's one thing. The other thing, according to the radar stuff that's come out on, in different multimedias, whatever, it shows the helicopter going like 200 feet, and then it kind of climbed, and it shows from 200, it goes blip, 300. So they busted the altitude. That's why I'm saying, in my personal opinion, I think it was the helicopter guys.
It's so easy because
Unfortunately.
I mean, I don't know if this ever. So like right now, I'm in the process of getting a new autopilot for the Mooney.
Okay.
And so right now, everything I do, I'm hand flying. Even when I go from Fort Lauderdale to Birmingham,
Good.
3 hours hand flying. But it is just hilarious to me, or scary. You're sitting there, everything's fine, clear day, you're above the clouds, and no problem. And you got your iPad sitting in the passenger seat, and you're looking over at traffic, and you're like, wait, what's going on? Okay, that looks good. And then you turn back, and you're like this, you've lost 500 feet, and you're like, oh my God, And it took 3 seconds.
Yep.
And I could easily see, those guys, especially if you're training. You're looking down and, you don't realize you pulled back or whatever. I don't know anything about helicopters for how to fly those. But, whatever. And then they realize, oh, we've gone up 100 feet.
But I can probably get you a helicopter pilot to interview later, so you let me know.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. No, I don't know. I've always been nervous about helicopters. I don't know about you.
They're cool. They're cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got one of my buddies, he flies helicopters. Yeah, and the first time no, it's not the first time. I take that back. It's not the first time I've been on one. I was in one years ago in Sun and Fun. I was fueling all the airplanes and the helicopters, whatever. So the guy's like, hey, at the end of the show, you can come and have a ride. I'm like, sweet. So it was cool to just be at 0 speed and just go. It's like a magic carpet. It just goes. Yeah, it is super cool. It'd be very interesting to learn how to fly those things.
That's the one. I've never done a helicopter, and I really, I'm hesitant to do. I'll tell you, this is the weirdest story that my dad and my brother, we went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Where?
Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Gatlinburg?
I try to
beer.
hide the, yeah, no, I need.
That two?
Yeah, I need another one.
Doctor?
This is the most important part of every podcast, is bringing the right
refreshments.
Bringing the right beverages.
Gotta bring napkins next time.
Yeah, we'll have to do a follow-up interview.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make. You can make your own mess over there.
Wow. These, when I say they're strong drinks, they're like literally strong drinks. Well, for round 2.
Anyways.
For round 2 or 3, salud. But no, so we went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I did make my own mess. So we went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and they were offering helicopter rides $5. Well,
yeah, but for $5.
Well, what we later learned is $5 got you a 20-second helicopter ride. Basically, it would take you up and bring you back down. And no, what it was, that was the teaser rate. It's like, no, if you wanted. Well, my brother.
Now, if you want to fly for real, it's gonna be $500 there, son.
Yeah, we don't mess around.
Yeah.
That's $500 per person.
Per person.
Yeah. So they get on the helicopter, and they go flying. I wouldn't do it. I was terrified because back when I was really young, I was terrified of flying, and I wanted to, but I was just terrified. So they go and flew, and I just stayed behind. They come back and land. We go back to the hotel. The next morning, we're getting up. We're getting ready to go into town. And on the local news, that helicopter crashed.
You're talking about way too many crashes. We need to stop this.
I know. I'm going flying tomorrow. You're going flying tomorrow.
I'm not flying anything, bro, until Monday. I don't touch an airplane until Monday, so I'm good.
No, I'm flying to Naples tomorrow.
You are? Mm-hmm. Going for the $100 barbecues?
Most likely.
More likely?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. Nothing like Of course, these days it went from a $100 burger, $100 barbecue to about a $1,000 burger, $1,000 barbecue.
Jesus Christ, I know.
Between hangar rent and.
Yeah, I mean when you add it all up.
Yeah, but as he said, he wasn't kidding.
That's one thing that. The FAA is there to promote aviation. It's kind of hard to promote it when it costs that much money. That's why I don't see that many people going for, I want to be an airline pilot, or I just want to be a corporate pilot, or whatever. Just a pilot in general, they're like, oh, I'm gonna get my private pilot's license. Then they figure out, I was like, wait a minute, $7,000-8,000 for a private pilot license? What?
Yeah, I mean,
And then I realized how lucky I am because when I went, and it was what, $30 an hour for 152?
oh my God. Yeah, and I mean, shoot, it was crazy expensive when I was like 120. Now it's like
Yeah.
200 or
Try
goddamn.
to get a multi-engine rating after that. Anyways, yeah, we got to do something about that.
Yeah.
How to make flying cheaper, because it's not, you can't make it cheap, period.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing is like back in to me, the heyday was like the 70s because
$4,800 for an airplane?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, insurance is what's. I mean, I'm saying this like I know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I mean, insurance and everything. I mean, if you buy a Cessna 172 today, it's $500,000.
A new one.
Mm-hmm. If you just went to Cessna and said, I want to, well, I think I looked on the other day, it was like $495. I mean, $500,000 for 172. I mean, that's just.
How much ass is it gonna get you though?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Which is now officially the point that we reached. We've hit an hour.
All right. Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's in.
It flies by. No pun intended.
Oh, how?
Thank you.
How did I not know that was coming? Not know it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Yeah. But no, seriously, man, I appreciate you being the first person to interview.
Salud.
I'm glad to see been flying for 280 years and still going strong. But
Just 25.
yeah. But no, we'll have to do a follow up like after we've had more hours. I've had more flights. But yeah, well, all right, man. Well, again, I appreciate
All right,
it.
brother.
It's always good to see you.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
he's the guy, the Moody guy.
all right. Well, we'll see you again soon, and I'll send all the links and everything in the description. So you guys have a good day.